My wife, Alexandra Parker, and I were shopping at the mall that Saturday afternoon. Everything felt completely normal until she suddenly stepped aside to answer a phone call. She motioned for me to go ahead and get the car while she finished talking. I told her I'd pull up right at the curb to pick her up. I drove into the parking lot and stopped near the main entrance. Before I could even put the car in park, an older security guard walked quickly toward me with a grave expression. "Excuse me, sir," he said, keeping his voice low. "Is that your wife over there?" He pointed directly at Alexandra standing near the exit. I nodded, feeling a strange tightness in my chest. Then he leaned in even closer and delivered the line that stopped my world. "You need to see this." He pulled out his phone and played a short video. The second I saw what was on that screen, my heart slammed against my ribs. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even think straight. In those few seconds, everything I believed about my marriage started to shatter right in front of me. I stood there frozen, staring at the phone, while the older security guard remained silent beside me, watching my reaction. If you've ever had that sick feeling in your gut that something was seriously wrong in your relationship, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Stories like this might save you from finding out the hard way. Let's get straight into what happened. The drive home from the mall felt endless. Justin Parker kept both hands tight on the steering wheel, his mind replaying the short clip over and over. When he finally pulled into the driveway of their 2-story house in the suburbs, he sat there for several minutes before turning off the engine. Inside, Alexandra Parker was already unpacking the shopping bags on the kitchen counter. She looked up and smiled at him the same way she always did. "Hey, honey, you were gone a while. Everything okay?" Her tone sounded casual, almost too casual. Justin forced a nod and helped carry the rest of the bags without saying much. Their 9-year-old son Noah ran downstairs, excited to show his father the new video game he wanted. Justin listened to the boy talk, but his eyes kept drifting back to Alexandra as she moved around the kitchen preparing dinner. She chatted about the mall crowd and the sales she found, yet something in her voice felt off now. Later that evening, after Noah went to bed, Justin stepped outside to the backyard to make a call. He dialed Genevieve Ross, his longtime colleague and close friend, who worked in the same tech security department. "Jenna, I need to talk to someone I trust," he said quietly. "Something happened today and I don't know what to do yet." Genevieve listened without interrupting as Justin described the security guard's approach and the video. She suggested he stay calm and gather more information before confronting anyone. The next morning, Justin returned to the mall alone. He found Raymond Fletcher near the same entrance and asked to speak with him privately. The older security guard recognized him immediately and led him to a small office behind the security desk. "I figured you might come back," Raymond said. "There's more on the camera system if you want to see it." Raymond played additional footage from different angles. Justin watched Alexandra meet a tall man in the parking lot after the phone call. The two stood close, talking intently, and the man handed her something small before they parted. Justin's stomach tightened again, but he stayed focused. He asked Raymond if any other recordings showed financial activity or repeated meetings. Raymond checked the logs and mentioned seeing the same man's vehicle in the lot several times over the past month. Back at home that afternoon, Justin quietly checked their shared bank account on his laptop while Alexandra was out picking up Noah from school. He noticed several large transfers he didn't recognize. One stood out: $180,000 moved to an unfamiliar account labeled as a medical consulting firm. The recipient name linked back to doctor. Christopher Hale, a well-known surgeon at the city hospital. Justin saved screenshots and closed the laptop just as Alexandra returned with Noah. She greeted him with her usual, "Hi, honey. We stopped for ice cream on the way home." Justin answered normally, but inside he was already planning his next steps. He needed professional help to understand what was really happening with the money and the man in the video. That night, after the house grew quiet, Justin sent a message to Genevieve asking if she could meet him at the office early the following day. He also looked up contact information for a private investigator named Paul Whitaker, whose firm specialized in financial matters and discreet surveillance. The pieces were starting to connect, but Justin knew he had to move carefully if he wanted real answers. 2 days later, Justin took the next step he knew was necessary. He contacted Paul Whitaker, a private investigator whose firm specialized in discreet financial and marital matters, and arranged an immediate meeting at the investigator's downtown office. Paul Whitaker, a calm and methodical man in his late 50s, reviewed the initial information Justin provided and agreed to start a full background check and transaction trace. Justin signed the retainer agreement on the spot, feeling the weight of the decision, but also a sense of control returning. From the investigator's office, Justin drove straight to his company building, where Genevieve Ross was already waiting in their usual secure conference room. The two colleagues sat side by side with laptops open and began a careful review of every recent family account and linked business record. Genevieve used her data analysis skills to pull up additional layers of information that Justin had not seen before. Their focused search uncovered a clear pattern. Alexandra had authorized the transfer of $180,000 to a medical consulting firm registered under the name of Dr. Christopher Hale, a prominent surgeon at the city hospital. The transaction dates matched several occasions when the same man had appeared in the mall parking lot footage. Justin leaned back in his chair, jaw tight, as the numbers and names appeared on the screen. Genevieve pointed out the routing details and suggested they print hard copies, while also saving everything to an encrypted drive. They spent the next hour discussing safe ways to gather supporting evidence without raising any suspicion at home. Genevieve offered to run a quiet cross-check through her professional contacts in the tech security field, and Justin accepted the help gratefully. When they finished, Justin gathered the printed documents and placed them in a plain folder. He left the office building and walked to a quiet corner of the adjacent parking structure before making another call. This time he dialed his older sister Lillian Parker, who worked as a divorce attorney at a respected law firm downtown. Lillian Parker picked up on the first ring and immediately noticed the tension in her brother's voice. Justin gave her a concise summary of the financial discovery and the surgeon's involvement without naming the doctor yet. Lillian listened carefully and advised him to continue documenting every detail while avoiding any direct conversation with Alexandra for now. She offered to review the documents once Justin could send them through a secure channel and promised to prepare initial legal options if the situation escalated. Justin thanked his sister and ended the call, slipping the phone back into his pocket. He stood there for a moment, looking out over the downtown skyline, before heading back to his car. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together faster than he had expected, and he knew the investigation was now moving forward on multiple fronts. He drove home that evening with the folder locked in his briefcase, determined to keep his outward behavior completely normal around Alexandra and Noah. 2 weeks passed, and the company held its annual gala at a large downtown venue near the law firm district. Justin Parker arrived with Alexandra on his arm, both dressed formally for the evening event. The ballroom buzzed with colleagues, clients, and industry partners under bright chandeliers. Alexandra smiled and chatted easily with several people she knew from previous gatherings, her hand resting lightly on Justin's sleeve. She leaned in once and whispered, "This looks like a good night, honey. Let's enjoy it." Justin nodded but stayed alert. He had spent the previous days organizing the collected evidence into a clear sequence on a small USB drive and printed summary sheets hidden in his suit jacket. Throughout the cocktail hour, he exchanged brief pleasantries while keeping track of where Dr. Christopher Hale stood across the room. The surgeon had been invited as a guest speaker on medical technology partnerships and mingled confidently with the crowd. As the formal program began and guests took their seats, Justin waited for the right moment. When the master of ceremonies opened the floor for additional remarks, Justin stood up and walked to the microphone at the front of the stage. The room quieted as he tapped the mic and began speaking in a steady voice. He thanked the company for the event and then shifted directly to the reason he had come forward. He described how he had discovered a significant unauthorized transfer from his family accounts. He named the amount $180,000 and stated it had gone to a medical consulting firm linked to Dr. Christopher Hale. Justin then connected his phone to the projection system and displayed the transaction records along with still images from the mall parking lot showing the two individuals meeting. The images were clear enough for everyone in the room to recognize the faces. Gasps rippled through the audience. Several colleagues turned to look at Dr. Christopher Hale, who had frozen in his seat near the front table. Alexandra's face drained of color as she stared at the screen. She rose halfway from her chair, her mouth opening, but no words coming out at first. When Justin continued and mentioned the repeated meetings captured on security footage, Alexandra finally spoke, her voice sharp and trembling. "Justin, stop this right now. This is not the place." "Doctor!" Christopher Hale pushed back his chair and stood abruptly. His usual confident expression had vanished, replaced by visible panic. He muttered something to the person beside him and began moving quickly toward a side exit, weaving between tables while avoiding eye contact with anyone. The room erupted in low murmurs and shocked whispers as guests watched him leave. Justin remained at the microphone a moment longer, stating calmly that he had shared the information because the company valued transparency and he wanted the truth on record. He then stepped down and walked back toward his table. Alexandra met him halfway, her eyes flashing with anger and fear. "How could you do this to me in front of everyone?" she hissed, no longer using any term of endearment. Her hands shook as she clutched her purse. Security personnel at the venue moved discreetly toward the exits, and several senior executives exchanged urgent glances. The gala atmosphere had shifted completely within minutes. Justin looked at his wife directly and said nothing more in that moment, letting the weight of the public revelation settle over the room. A few days after the gala, the tension at home had grown heavy. Alexandra Parker waited until Noah was asleep before approaching Justin in the living room. She sat across from him on the couch and spoke in a low, controlled voice. "We need to talk about what happened. You blindsided me in front of all those people." Her eyes searched his face for any sign of softening. When Justin remained silent, she continued, "It wasn't what it looked like. Christopher and I only discussed some medical options for my mother's treatment. The money was supposed to be an investment that would come back." Justin listened without interrupting at first. He watched her hands twist together in her lap and noted how she avoided using any familiar term of endearment. After she finished her explanation, he leaned forward and said evenly, "If that's true, then prove it. Wear a wire and meet him tomorrow. Let him explain everything on record." Alexandra stared at him for a long moment. Her shoulders tensed, and she started to argue. But something in Justin's steady gaze made her pause. Eventually, she agreed, though her voice carried clear resentment. The next afternoon, she left the house dressed in a simple blouse that concealed the small recording device Justin had obtained through Paul Whitaker. She drove to a quiet cafe on the edge of downtown where Dr. Christopher Hale was already waiting at a corner table. From the hidden microphone, Justin and Paul Whitaker listened in real time from a parked car 2 blocks away. At first, the conversation stayed cautious. "Doctor," Christopher Hale greeted her warmly and asked if she was okay after the gala incident. Alexandra repeated parts of her earlier story about her mother's medical needs. The doctor nodded sympathetically at first, but as she pressed him for more details about the transferred funds, his tone shifted. He admitted that the $180,000 had gone into a joint venture account he controlled. He described it as a way to grow their resources quickly through private medical consulting deals. When Alexandra asked directly about their personal relationship, "Doctor." Christopher Hale hesitated only briefly before confirming they had been seeing each other for several months. He assured her that the financial arrangement was separate and would protect them both if handled carefully. His words grew more detailed as he explained how the payments were structured to avoid easy detection and how he had used his position at the hospital to facilitate certain transfers. Justin sat motionless in the passenger seat, every sentence from the recording cutting deeper. Paul Whitaker made notes without speaking, ensuring the audio quality remained clear. The conversation continued for nearly 40 minutes, with Dr. Christopher Hale growing more confident as he believed he was reassuring Alexandra. He even suggested they reduce contact temporarily while he worked on moving additional funds to safer channels. When the meeting ended and Alexandra returned to the car, her face was pale. She handed over the device without a word. Justin removed the wire carefully and stored it with the existing evidence. Neither of them spoke during the drive home. The recorded confession now provided concrete proof of both the affair and the unauthorized movement of family money, strengthening the case significantly. That evening, the house felt colder than usual. Alexandra went upstairs early while Justin remained downstairs, reviewing the new audio files. The evidence continued to build, and he knew the next steps would determine how the entire situation unfolded. 2 weeks later, the situation reached another breaking point. Justin Parker stood in the school pickup lane, waiting for the final bell. Parents lined up in their cars, while a few stood outside chatting. Paul Whitaker had called earlier that morning and asked to meet briefly in the parking area near the school. The private investigator handed Justin a sealed envelope containing the official DNA test results and left without lingering. Justin opened the envelope alone in his car. The laboratory report was clear and unambiguous. Noah Parker was not his biological son. The numbers and percentages left no room for doubt. He sat motionless for several minutes, letting the information settle. When the school bell rang and children began streaming out, Justin stepped out of the vehicle to meet Noah as usual. Alexandra Parker arrived moments later, parking a few spaces away. She walked over to collect their son, her expression guarded. Noah ran toward them carrying his backpack, excited to tell them about his day. Justin waited until the boy was close enough to hear before speaking directly to Alexandra. "The test results came back today," he said quietly but firmly. "Noah is not my biological child." Alexandra froze in place. Her face went pale, and she instinctively reached for Noah's hand. "What are you talking about? This is ridiculous. You're making things up to hurt me." Her voice rose slightly, drawing glances from nearby parents. She tried to pull Noah toward her car, but the boy stood still, looking between his parents with confusion. Justin held up the report so she could see the official letterhead. The lab confirmed it. The dates, the markers, everything matches. "You know exactly what this means." He kept his tone controlled, but the pain and anger were evident. Alexandra snatched the paper from his hand and scanned it quickly. Her breathing became shallow as the reality hit her. Noah tugged at her sleeve. "Mom. What's wrong? Why is Dad upset?" The 9-year-old's innocent question hung in the air. Alexandra knelt down quickly and tried to reassure him with a forced smile. "It's nothing. Sweetie. Just grown-up talk. Let's go home now." Her voice cracked on the last words. Justin stepped closer and looked at his wife directly. "How long have you known? Was this part of the plan with Christopher all along?" Alexandra stood up abruptly, her eyes flashing with a mix of fear and defiance. "You have no right to do this here, in front of everyone. We can discuss it at home." She no longer used any soft terms when addressing him. Parents nearby began to whisper and move their children away from the unfolding scene. Noah's eyes filled with tears as he sensed the growing conflict. He clutched his backpack tighter and looked up at both adults, unsure who to turn to. Alexandra tried to guide him toward her car, but Justin blocked the path gently, yet firmly. The argument escalated in low, intense voices. Alexandra accused Justin of orchestrating everything to destroy their family. Justin countered by pointing out the financial transfers and the recorded conversation as part of the same pattern of deception. Noah stood between them, witnessing the sharp exchange and the way his mother's usual warmth had disappeared. The pickup lane slowly emptied as other families left. Alexandra finally grabbed Noah's hand and hurried him into her car without another word to Justin. She drove away quickly, leaving Justin standing alone beside his vehicle. The DNA revelation had shattered the last remaining illusion of normalcy, and the family drama had now spilled into their son's daily world. 1 month later, the legal proceedings moved into their final phase. The downtown law firm buzzed with quiet activity as Justin Parker sat in a conference room with his sister Lillian Parker, reviewing final documents. Lillian Parker had prepared a strong case built on the accumulated evidence of financial misconduct and marital betrayal. Alexandra Parker arrived with her own attorney, her posture stiff and her answers short during the initial mediation session. The judge reviewed the submitted materials in the hearing room adjacent to the main offices. Lillian Parker presented the transaction records, showing the transfer of $180,000 to accounts controlled by Dr. Christopher Hale. She also submitted the recorded conversation in which both parties discussed the nature of their relationship and the movement of funds. Alexandra's attorney attempted to challenge the admissibility of certain evidence, but the documentation proved solid and properly obtained. As the session continued, 2 federal agents entered the building through the main entrance. They moved with purpose toward the hallway where Dr. Christopher Hale had been waiting to provide a statement at the request of Alexandra's legal team. When the agents identified themselves, Dr. Christopher Hale tried to leave through a side door, but security personnel blocked his path. The lead agent read the charges clearly: wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit financial deception involving medical billing irregularities. "Doctor, Christopher Hale was placed in handcuffs right there in the law firm corridor. Several staff members and other clients witnessed the arrest as the agents led him out to a waiting vehicle. Alexandra watched from the mediation room window, her face showing a mixture of shock and resignation. She no longer directed any words toward Justin during the proceedings. Lillian Parker continued presenting the custody and asset division requests. The evidence of the affair and the unauthorized transfers heavily influenced the judge's preliminary rulings. Justin was granted temporary primary custody of Noah, with supervised visitation for Alexandra until further evaluation. The court also froze certain joint accounts pending full forensic review by federal authorities. Outside the building, news of the arrest spread quickly among legal circles. Dr. Christopher Hale faced immediate suspension of his medical license pending investigation, and the hospital issued a formal statement distancing itself from the surgeon. The financial trail pointed to larger irregularities beyond the $180,000, suggesting the case could expand. Justin stood with Lillian Parker in the lobby after the session concluded. His sister summarized the day's developments in calm, professional terms. The combination of family court proceedings and federal intervention had accelerated the consequences for everyone involved. Alexandra left the building separately, avoiding any further interaction in the parking area. The events of that day marked a significant turning point in the legal battle, with clear repercussions beginning to take shape for both Alexandra and Dr. Christopher Hale under American law. After the final court session concluded at the downtown law firm, Justin Parker walked out into the afternoon sun with a sense of closure he had not felt in months. The rulings came down clearly and without ambiguity. Justin received primary physical custody of Noah, with Alexandra limited to supervised visitation only after she completed court-ordered counseling and financial restitution. The asset division awarded Justin the family home and the majority of remaining marital property, citing the documented unauthorized transfers and pattern of deception as key factors. Alexandra was required to repay a large portion of the $180,000 that had disappeared into the medical consulting accounts. Dr. Christopher Hale's federal case moved forward separately but swiftly. The surgeon lost his medical license permanently after the investigation revealed broader fraudulent practices tied to the funds. He accepted a plea deal and began serving an 18-year sentence in federal prison. The court documents detailed how the scheme had affected multiple parties, confirming the scale of the misconduct under American law. Alexandra Parker departed the courthouse through a different exit. She offered no final words to Justin, and he made no effort to speak with her. From that day forward, all communication between them passed exclusively through their attorneys. Justin set firm boundaries that eliminated any possibility of personal reconciliation or renewed contact outside matters directly involving Noah. In the following weeks, Justin concentrated on creating stability for his son. He arranged regular counseling sessions for Noah to help the boy adjust to the new family structure. The two developed fresh daily routines that focused on school, sports, and quiet evenings together. Justin also leaned on Genevieve Ross for practical advice as he navigated single parenthood, while keeping their relationship supportive and professional. Lillian Parker followed up on the remaining legal details to ensure every aspect of the judgment was enforced properly. The entire process reinforced for Justin the value of facing difficult truths head-on, rather than ignoring warning signs. He recognized that real protection for himself and his child came from thorough documentation and reliance on the legal system instead of emotional reactions. Justin stood in the backyard one quiet evening, watching Noah ride his bicycle on the driveway. The boy laughed at a simple trick he had learned, and for the first time in a long while, the sound felt unburdened. The chapter involving Alexandra and Dr. Christopher Hale was now fully closed. There were no lingering connections, no attempts at forgiveness, and no door left open for future involvement. This experience highlighted an important lesson for anyone facing similar betrayal in marriage. When trust is broken through both personal deception and financial wrongdoing, pursuing accountability through proper legal avenues can restore order and security. Truth often brings initial pain, but it also creates space for genuine healing and stronger foundations. Prioritizing a child's well-being and one's own self-respect allows a person to move forward with dignity and build a life based on honesty rather than illusions. Justin turned back toward the house, ready for whatever came next. The past had been confronted and resolved. The future now belonged to him and Noah, built on clarity and renewed strength.